The views and opinions of the guests of Veterans Archives do not reflect the views and opinions of Veterans Archives, its subsidiaries, or its partners. Hello and welcome to Veterans Archives. This is a podcast where you can learn about our military history in the words and voices of the men and women who lived and created it. I'm your host, Bill Krieger, and let's listen to our next story.
Hello, today we are here. It is October 2nd, 2023. We are here with Ray Rayl, who served in the U.S. Marine Corps. How are you doing today, Ray?
Just fine.
All right, so let's talk about you a little bit. Where are you originally from?
February 27th, 1946, I was born at Carroll Community Hospital in Carroll, Michigan. And I spent time in Fairgrove, Michigan, which is 9 miles west of there. I spent kindergarten through second grade at the Fairgrove Elementary School, third grade at Goodrich Elementary School, fourth grade at Carroll Community Schools. 5th through 10th, I spent at Fairgrove School, and then 11th and 12th grade was spent at Traverse City High School.
Traverse City High School?
Yep.
Okay. Did you play any sports while you were growing up?
I played some football. I ran track, ran the mile on track, played a little bit of basketball. Most of the time in my later 8th grade, I was a manager for the varsity basketball team.
Okay.
The coach took me under his arm, got me some medical training or first aid training. And I was a manager for 3 years.
Okay. So what were some of the things you did growing up as a kid around Traverse City?
We did a lot of playing outside. Most of my punishments were not coming in for dinner.
Oh.
I loved ice skating. Loved getting a bunch of guys together in the summertime and going down to school and playing baseball or whatever, just being active outside. Did a little fishing in the streams around Fairgrove. But most of the time, just like being outside. We lived out in the country and we built tunnels through snow drifts and shovel off ponds in the fields and ice skate, play hockey, whatever. Mm-hmm. A lot of activity.
Do you notice a huge difference in snowfall compared to? Yeah,
the snowfall back then was knee deep. Not now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You used to go down my grandfather's house in Metamora, and we'd stand up on the drifts looking down in the cars. Don't have that too much anymore.
No. I know Traverse City, the bays used to freeze when I was a kid. Now they don't.
No, it evaporates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you have any siblings when you were growing up?
I have an older sister, older brother, and 2 younger brothers. My youngest brother lives in Jackson. My next youngest brother lives in Oscoda. My brother lives in Jackson, Tennessee, and my sister lives in Mesa, Arizona. Okay.
Are you pretty close with them still, or?
I'm close with my sister. I call my brother on occasions. This weekend, I'm going up to visit my brother in Oscoda. My younger brother, we're probably the closest because of proximity. We're close to one. It's not that far from Jackson from here. So we communicate a lot on phone or computer.
Okay.
But my older brother, like I said, on occasion, holidays, birthdays, whatever.
And what did your parents do?
They worked all their life, pretty much. They worked for the state of Michigan. They worked at Carroll State Home. They worked at Lapeer State Home, and they worked at Traverse City State Home. They tried about a year, they tried to farm down in Goodrich, and it didn't work out.
So you say stay at home?
State home.
State home. What is the state home?
Mentally retarded.
Okay.
Traverse City was mentally retarded. Carroll was epilepsy. And Lapeer, I'm not sure what that was, is retarded. I tried it in Lapeer. It didn't work out.
Okay. So is it so I'm thinking of Traverse City, and there was a mental health ward like back off of 131. It's now like a shopping center, right?
There's a whole complex back west of 131.
Okay.
And there's, I don't know, maybe 5 hospitals. And in fact, we lived on 11th Street, and there was a walking distance to the hospital.
Uh-huh.
Now one's a shopping area.
Yeah.
The other one is a coffee shop.
Yeah.
When I lived in Traverse City, after I retired, I was on the Grand Traverse Area Veterans Coalition, and we built a Veterans Park right off 131, right in the main driveway of the state home. If you turn to the west, the main entrance, and it's about maybe half a block in, and there's a bunch of flags and other stuff. There's a memorial park there.
Mm-hmm. I know exactly where you're talking about.
I've got a brick there.
Okay. When you graduated from high school, what year did you graduate from high school?
I graduated from high school in 1964.
Okay. And what did you join before you graduated, or?
Well, I was on the co-op program at the high school. I went to school 4 hours a day, and then I worked 4 hours a day at Munson Hospital as an orderly. In April, sometime before April, I hooked up with the Marine recruiter in town, Sergeant Hintz. And
Sergeant Hintz?
Hintz, Hintz.
Okay.
And he was a good, straight shooter, told me the truth. He says, when you go into boot camp for the first 3 weeks, you're going to hate everybody that had anything to do with you coming in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So April, he flew me down to Selfridge Air Force Base. They had a Marine Reserve unit
Harrison
down there.
Township, Michigan.
Yep.
Okay.
So I went down there for the weekend and watched what was going on, did a little swimming in the pool and the hot tub and all that stuff. Came back Sunday night and went back up to the recruiting office at some point and told them I wanted to join the Marine Corps. So I went on in April. No, back up. I signed up in April on a 120-day delay program. So in April, my time had started, but I didn't go active until 8 July 64, excuse me.
8 July 64?
Yep. Right after graduation, month after graduation.
So like growing up, were you like, I'm joining the military? Did anybody in your family serve? Or?
No, I had a buddy that I went to school with that 2 years before I went in, he went in.
Okay.
And kind of a role model. We were good buddies, even though he's 2 years older than I was. And I was a skinny 135. Okay. I had to sign a waiver to go in the Marine Corps because I was so skinny. And I wanted to do something, a little challenge. So 8 July 64, I was on American Airlines with probably 70 other kids.
First flight ever? First time flying on a plane?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we flew out to San Diego, and some sharp Marine with highly pressed and shine shoes, pressed clothes, and he said, just go out there and stand on the street. Oh, that's cool, So I always went on and stand on the street, couple ranks, I guess. People driving by, you'll be sorry, and all that stuff. And so pretty soon he came out, the buses came up, we jumped on the bus. The moment we went through the gate at MCRD, Marine Corps Recruit Depot.
So when you, sorry to interrupt, when you joined, did they tell you what job you were going to do? Or
no.
You just...
I knew I was aviation guarantee. That's all I knew.
Okay.
So, moment the bus went through the gate at MCRD, the wheels came off the buggy.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. They pulled up in front of the receiving barracks, and we had about 3 attempts getting off that bus, trying to get off as fast as the GI wanted us to get off. And finally, we met his satisfaction. We stood on the yellow footprints, the famous yellow footprints, and went through all this stuff. We were up all night, got our heads shaved, got a bucket issue, bagged up our civilian clothes. I don't remember calling home, but I understand they're doing that now. I don't remember if I did or not. But he was right. Sergeant Hintz was right. The first 3 weeks, I hated anybody that had me. 2 and 2 was no longer 4. 2 and 2 was whatever the DI wanted. It was rough. I went through the shots. We had the air guns at the time. If I had needles, I would have passed out. But yeah, we went through all that, and then things started leveling off. There was more of a reason for that harassment, if you want to call it that. I didn't think it was. It's just a way of doing business. So I went through 12 weeks at San Diego, then on to ITR in Camp Pendleton for a month.
So in those 7 weeks, is there anybody do you remember your drill sergeant's name?
Sergeant Harmon.
Sergeant Harmon?
He was he was not the hard one. We went through, my platoon commander was Staff Sergeant Valdez.
Okay.
And there was a couple other ones that went through our platoon and came in and went. Corporal Cooley was another guy, and he was a heavy. He was a one that you couldn't do anything right. Not saying Sergeant Harmon didn't get irritated from time to time at us. But anyway, went through the 12 weeks. And
was there anybody that was in your platoon that like helped you? Like, did you have like we would call it a battle buddy in the Army, but somebody that would...
I went in on the buddy system with a kid from Riverside up by Alma.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know him. He was on the bus when I went down for my physical, and we hooked up there and started talking, and supposedly that was a buddy system, but we never talked to each other much in boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
And once he got out of boot camp, I have no idea where he went. So,
okay.
So
anyway,
you
don't communicate with anyone from...
No, I stopped up in Riverside one time to look him up, but he wasn't there, so
okay.
He might have got out and settled in California for all I know, But every time you go to a new base, you find new guys.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Pendleton, 3 of us guys got together, and we were going to go down on Hollywood and Vine and call Cadence for the ladies.
Yeah, it's a good place to do it.
Yeah, then we're going to check into a hotel with a couple dozen donuts, but none of that stuff ever happened.
Yeah, I don't know if that'd be a good place to do it in the 60s and 70s, though.
No, not really. No, but at boot camp, looking back at it, boot camp was great because it was organized.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to be there at 1700, you were there at 1700.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. And once you got out, I went to Memphis after I left ITR, Camp Pendleton. Memphis was my A school. I went there. I was supposed to be a tin bender, a structural mechanic, but they needed somebody in the seat shop, aviation safety equipment. So I jumped on that, and so I was working on ejection seats, canopy jettison, oxygen pressurization systems. And it was a good MOS. Unfortunately, there's not much calling for a seat mechanic on the outside nowadays, unless you're working for James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a year, when I left Memphis Naval Air Station, I went to Cherry Point. It's funny. They have dream sheets where you can put down where you want to go. I put on Road to Spain, 2nd Marine Air Wing, El Toro, and Rota, El Toro, and Iwakuni, Japan. I got Cherry Point.
So what was the number? Like infantry's like 0311.
Mine was 6443.
6443, and
yeah.
what was the actual name of
Aviation Safety Equipment?
Aviation Safety Equipment.
But they've changed that since. It's now 7371, I think it is.
Okay. I know now it's like, I talk to Marines, and now it's hard to come in and get aviation in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. Well, you got to score high.
Yeah, you got to score, which you scored high.
I scored high, yeah.
Do you remember your test score?
No, I don't. All I know is I got aviation guarantee.
Okay. You don't hear that very often. So
and if I hadn't, my folks probably wouldn't have signed for me.
Oh, because you're 17, yeah.
Yeah. But I told them I got aviation guarantee. I would be working on planes, jets, whatever. So he signed for me. If he hadn't, I'd have waited a couple of years and then went in anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was in when I hit Cherry Point, I picked up Lance Corporal, E3.
Cherry Point is
North Carolina.
Yeah.
Second
And what year did you get there?
I got there in late 64, early 65.
Okay.
And
so Cherry Point, North Carolina.
Actually, it was April 65.
April 65?
Yeah. And I picked up Lance Corporal in May. And while I was there, Cherry Point's not a good place for a single guy. Nothing going on. You got to travel down to Morehead City and sit on the beach and watch people fish for flounders. Exciting. Okay. So I started taking, I took a correspondence course through University of Maryland, Fundamentals of Electricity, only because I have no idea why I took Fundamentals of Electricity. And then I took a couple USAFI courses. I took some MCI courses. USAFI is United States Armed Forces Institute, and MCI is Marine Corps Institute. I took the Marine Rifle Team, Marine Rifle Squad, Marine Rifleman, and then I took some on-base training. I took driver's training. I didn't need it, but I took it. Give me something to do.
What kind of weapon were you using?
When I was in M14.
M14.
We used the M14 was our TL weapon in boot camp, then M1 and ITR, then back to M14 once I got out. Never picked it up. We never fan fired or anything. It was in the Armory, and that's where it stayed. So, and I took nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare training at Cherry Point. One day we were supposed to give ourselves to atropine Surette, which is a counteract nerve agent. And
they still have it today.
Yeah, and I don't like needles. So the next day when we were supposed to give ourselves the shot, I was ill. So I didn't go to class that day. So the next day I go to class, and the instructor's up there. He says, well, being a corpsman couldn't be here yesterday, we're going to give ourselves the shot today. So he passed out these aluminum toothpaste tubes with the needles on them, and you had to slap your leg and give yourself the injection. Then they come around and look, and okay, you can pull it out. I didn't pass out.
Oh, man.
But it was sugar water, basically. But it was a good experience. And I went through the gas chamber one more time.
What did you think about the gas chamber?
It was a little lighter than boot camp. It didn't affect you as much. But you didn't have to run a half mile before you went in there and either. Yeah. So
did you walk in with your gas mask on and then
take it off?
Sing
the Marine Corps hymn, put it back on, clear it, and walk out.
Yeah. Did your nose run and everything like
that? And a few other things, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
Yeah. No, that's another story. But then one day I was out putting oxygen in the aircraft.
What aircraft?
T-1A. It's a trainer.
Trainer?
Yeah,
okay.
It's a double seat front and back, and it's got the wing pods on it.
Okay.
Air Force calls them T2Vs, I think.
T2Vs?
Yeah. But that was our aircraft. I was in a non-operating squadron. I was going to die in Cherry Point. So that's why I started taking the USAFI and all the correspondence courses, because I had to get out of Cherry Point because there was nothing happening in Cherry Point for me. And
it's not a good place to be when you're single.
Not a good place, no. So I picked up Corporal just before I left, Corporal E4, just before I left Cherry Point. A bunch of guys took me out on a bar run, and I was feeling no pain. Everybody's buying drinks for me. Pretty soon this lady walks in the front door. I'm 18 years old. Mm-hmm. This lady walks in the front door, and I grabbed her and started dancing with her, and pretty soon I put a lip lock on her. She said, wait a minute, you're kissing me. You don't know my name. I said, what's your name? She said, Rose. I said, I'm Ray. So I put another one on her. Guy next was a big hand on my shoulders. Come on, Doc, we're going back to the barracks. Went back to barracks, and a friend of mine, Moose Hamlin, was writing a letter home. He said, hey, Moose, you ought to see this chick I was dancing with. The guy said, yeah, 62 years old and didn't have any teeth in her mouth. So I kind of swore off beer for a while.
I would too. Good story.
Yeah. So in April 1966, I departed Cherry Point and headed for home about 10 days. Came back to Michigan for 10 days, and then I went to Headquarters Marine Corps, Henderson Hall, Marine Security Guard Battalion.
Where is that located?
Arlington, Virginia.
Arlington, Virginia. And what year was this?
1966. Yep.
So at this point, you've been in for about 2 years.
Yeah. Yep. 2 years, and I was E4 corporal. Went through, we call it Kuth School. It's right there, right up the street from the Pentagon.
It's called, what school is it?
Kuth School.
Kuth?
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
Yeah, well, if the ambassadors got a party in the Marine security guards are invited, you got to put the little finger out when you're drinking your drink. You got to keep a couple inches or an inch of liquid in it. So if anybody toasts, you got to have something to drink.
Oh,
so that's why I call it Kuth School.
Okay.
Other things, changing safe combinations, handling diplomatic couriers, riot control, stuff like that. Fan firing the riot gun, the .38 revolver. They don't have any of that anymore.
But a little more exciting than where you were at Cherry Point.
A lot more exciting. Yep. I waited for once I completed the training. We had personnel inspections every day. We had a junk on a bunk. Once while we were there, they don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. Liberty was good, but most of the time you're studying.
What were you studying for?
Changing safe combinations. Maybe you want to read more about different posts around the world. Mm-hmm. They have a whole library of loose leaf notebooks like that of pictures from every embassy and consulate in the world. So you want to make a selection once you graduate, another dream sheet. So I put in for Rabat, Morocco, Ascension, Paraguay, and Bangkok. And I got Bangkok.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yep. And but once I graduated, you can't go overseas until your background investigation comes in, which you filled out. I filled out the moment I left the XO's office after he told me, Rayl, whether you like it or not, you've been nominated for State Department duty. I said, yes. So I went down and filled that long background investigation. I moved around a lot, as you can see by what I read earlier. But my background investigation, until it came in, I worked in the Navy Annex, right up the street from the Pentagon. My job was to get promotional warrants for staff sergeants signed by the commandant. So I said, cool, I can meet the commandant.
Helping people get promoted, yeah. Yeah,
it's a machine. You go up and you put a stack of warrants in there and it signs the commandant's name. Kicks out a seat, signs the commandant's name.
Fake signature.
Yeah, yep. So
you could have promoted yourself.
Yeah, I could have. Yeah. So I on the weekend, I got a job escorting the president's physical fitness team down to Quantico.
The fitness team that
it's a bunch of kids, high school kids that excelled in physical fitness, and they signed up for this. And so I went with them and a couple other Marines, and just to answer any questions they may have about the Marine Corps. And surprisingly, a lot of people think it's a 24/7 job. Mm-hmm. And where I was at, it wasn't. It was an 8-hour, 40-hour week. Actually, less than that, because on Wednesdays was we called it organized grab ass. Duty section. Duty section had to stand duty, but everybody else, there's 4 duty sections. Everybody else went out to the park and they played ball and drank beer and all that stuff. So, but if you had duty section that week, you had to stay back and fill aircraft and stuff like that. So you're mainly Monday through Friday, like 6:30 to 4:30, or but unless you had a duty section on the weekends. Then duty section on the weekends, you could stay on base, but you had to sign out where you're going. And you could go down and get yourself a burger at the E Club or go to a movie or whatever, but you had to sign out. You had to stay on base. So that was 1 week in a month. Mm-hmm. And then every so often you had to sweep down the barracks and or you can stay in the barracks and watch TV or play pool or ping pong, whatever your choice, but you have to be on the base. It's not a big thing.
Were there bars on post, or? Yeah,
there was an E Club, there was a NCO club, and there was an staff NCO club and an officers club. So it was 4 bars on base. Okay. Plus they had a good special services where you can go down and check out golf clubs, sailboats, rowboats, whatever. So you had a lot of things you could do on base, a lot better than off base.
Mm-hmm.
But and I took advantage of it. I wished I had taken up golf when I was in the Marines, but I didn't. I thought that was a game for the other people.
Yeah. The ones who took the blue pill, the officers.
Yeah. So anyway, I after I graduated, I went to work at the Navy Annex. Did some of the stuff on the weekends. And in September, my background investigation came in. I threw on a suit and packed my attaché case, picked up my ticket, went down to the airport, and I was on my way to Bangkok. By way of Paris, Rome, Cairo, Bombay, then into Bangkok. And then while I was in Bangkok, I did a few courier runs.
What year did you leave to go to Bang? Like what?
66, September.
September 66?
Yep. I was there for full 2 years.
Okay.
September 68.
So you fly over to Bangkok. How long? Do you remember how long the flight was? 12 hours.
12 hours.
And what was the temperature? It would have been pretty warm here in the U.S. when you went. How hot was it when you got there?
Let's take a quick break.
Veterans Archives is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we rely on donations from our listeners. If you are enjoying these stories and would like to support our continued efforts, please go to www.veteransarchives.org and select the donate button. Thank you.
Probably about, just off the top, I would say about 85, 90 degrees, something like that.
Muggy?
Muggy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And during the monsoon season, you could set your clock by the rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So when I got out the plane at Damong Airport, there was 8 Marines up on the mezzanine. I said, this is cool. They come to see me off the airport. There was an English bulldog they got from the recruiting station in Kansas City, their mascot. They came to see the mascot. But anyway, the mascot had to be in quarantine for a while, so they come pick me up. We went back to the Marine House. Marine House was maybe 4 miles from the embassy. Since then, they moved it on the embassy compound.
And it's like in downtown Bangkok.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, the Marine House was on Soy 35, and then we had to take Sukhumvit Road down to, I don't even know, Papong or something like that, to the embassy. And it basically was pretty much probably a half-hour drive during busy time.
Oh, I believe it.
Because Bangkok is busy.
Yeah.
So when I got there, I settled down, unloaded my suitcase, and then they took me to the embassy, USAM and USIS, all three agencies. And then I went on 14 days restriction. I worked 6 hours on, 6 hours off, 6 hours on for the next 14 days, snapping in, learning the business. Not much going on at USAM on USIS. That's a weekend deal and after working hours during the weekdays. But embassy was very busy. Tourists, GIs coming over on R wanting to get married.
Why would they go to Bangkok to get married? Just because of the weather? Or?
Just because they're girls. Those girls would do anything.
Oh, the local girls.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
They'll do anything to get to the States.
Oh, yeah.
So, but while I was
It's
there,
everywhere, I think.
yeah, while I was there, President Johnson came over and we provided security for him with the Secret Service and
Lyndon Johnson.
Oh,
yep. Nice.
I was secretary for Secretary of State Dean Rusk, which is kind of funny because I was sitting there at the Monongahela guest house, and this second lieutenant army was sitting next to me. And we're talking pretty soon. Sir, would you like I got civilian clothes on. Sir, would you like a Coke? I said, no, I'm fine. No. Kept on talking. Sir, you don't want a Coke? I said, okay, I'll take a Coke. So I take off. Pretty soon he comes back. Here's a Coke, sir. Okay. Had he seen me at the embassy and found out I was just an E4 corporal, he probably had me. But his choice, not mine.
Yeah.
And I did that. I don't want to say pulled rank, but another time I was at the embassy and second lieutenant come in, different guy. And he walks up to the embassy, I popped him a salute. And he started upstairs. I said, sir, you want to come back down? He comes down, he says, I want to see your ID card. He said, what's the matter? Can't you see the uniform? I said, sir, over here, uniforms are a dime a dozen. I want to see your ID card. So he whips out his ID card. I says, no, I want to see your briefcase. He says, you're not going to see it. Then you're not going upstairs. And my NCOIC was right around the stairway. I just called him up. Hey, Top, we got a problem out here. He comes around. He says, what's the problem? I says, Lieutenant won't show me his briefcase. He says, Lieutenant, follow me. So he goes in there. He says, Lieutenant, my Marines are cleared for top secret. We're not looking for material. We're looking for guns. You go upstairs and shoot somebody, we'll come up there, kill your ass. So he comes out, opens the briefcase. I sift through it, and I say, free to go, sir. Have a great day. I did the same thing to a brigadier general. And from that day on, whenever he was a commanding officer, just MAC-TIE, whenever he came in the embassy, I popped him a salute, morning general, morning Sergeant Rayl, how you doing? Just doing my job. Mm-hmm. So it was cool. And I had a good time at Bangkok. We had post 1 and 2 was embassy, 6 o'clock to noon, 6 a.m. to noon. Post 2 is noon to 6 p.m. And then you went back, post 1 went back at midnight and worked till 8 o'clock in the morning. And right on down, both the other 2 posts were USAM and the other 2 posts were USIS. If it falls on the weekend, you work 6 on, 6 off, 6 on, 6 off. Weekday, you go in at 5, get off at midnight, you're done. Or another guy comes in at midnight, works till 8 o'clock in the morning. Then he's done. But if you get somebody to take your shakedown, you got 3 days off, then you got shakedown, and then you got 2 days off. So you had somebody take your shakedown, you got 6 days off. You go down to the beach. Mm-hmm. You go down to Pattaya Beach and relax for a couple of days, stay at the Just Mag dormitory, which is basically walls and a ceiling. And it's open for about 14 inches at the top. But you go down there, sit on the beach, go water skiing, do whatever you want to do. They got some bars down there, but it's not like they do now. But they had maybe 2 or 3 bars. We'd go out with the military police, Army, and 2 Thai police. And we go load in the Jeep and go around, hit these off-limit bars. And then we dump the Thai police and we pick up the corpsman and we drive around back to these off-limit bars. Mm-hmm. But it was fun. We had good times.
It's funny because like everywhere I've been, they have like bars you can't go to, and it's usually like something. Like I remember Little Rock, Arkansas was like the Electric Cowboy was one of them. I don't know why I remember that one, but some of those bars, some of the things that happen in them.
That reason they're off limits over there is because probably VD rate.
Venereal disease, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of STDs over there.
Oh, I believe it. And it's known for prostitution.
Yep. Well, on Petbury Road, R&R strip. All the R&R troops go to Petbury Road. Thai Heaven had 300 girls working there. And they were all behind glass. They all had numbers on them. If you wanted number 13, you say, hey, I want number 13. And you go buy her drinks. You take her out. You got to pay the price. And if you pay her in the morning, I guess that's what they tell me anyway. But I met up with a lot of Foreign Service people. One I don't communicate with now because I'm assuming they're dead, but we went out to visit him, and he's a Royal Thai Police advisor. He's an ex-Marine Corps major, and he had a couple of daughters that one of the Marines married after he got off watch, or after he left Bangkok. But Bangkok was a great place. A lot of neat things to see. You got Chao Phraya River. You can go down that and see the Stork Sanctuary or marketplaces on the river and temples of the reclining Buddha and Wat Po, and that's all kinds of. I got a book full of slides like that I took when I was over there.
Did you see kickboxing while you were there?
I didn't see it personally. That's not my thing. But I seen it on TV. Yeah.
When I think of Bangkok, I think of Jean-Claude Van Damme and kickboxing.
Yeah.
Every time I hear the word Bangkok. So.
Yeah. So September rolled around in 1968, and it's my time to leave. My replacement was coming in. And so the dumbest thing I ever did, I had my choice. I went home the same way I came over. I came home by way of Colombo, Tel Aviv, Athens. I spent 12 hours in Frankfurt, London, and home, and I went to headquarters Marine Corps when I got home. I had a short time to do. But I was...
You went to where after Bangkok?
I flew home via the Atlantic. I should have went home by way of Pacific. That way I could have said I've been all the way around the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I hit...
so you could travel more.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could take some leave time. I had 60 days on the books when I got out.
Mm-hmm.
Why take leave when you get 5 days off at a stretch?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, I went, let's see, I got to flip the page. One time I was on post and the naval attaché, Captain Barton, walked up and said, "What are you doing this weekend?" I says, "Nothing, sir." He says, "I'd go for a ride." I said, "Sounds good to me." I just checked clear with my NCOIC. So he went in and talked to my top NCOIC. He comes out and he says, "Pack your bag for a couple of days. We're going to fly up to Vientiane, Laos." So we flew up to Laos and spent a couple nights there and went on town, found out what Vientiane was all about. And then Pathat Lao headquarters was right across the street from the embassy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking back to the embassy. We have to be out the street at midnight. Walking back to the embassy, and I aimed my camera up and Pathat Lao. Well, probably not want to do that. So on the way home, the embassy driver's zigzagging all over, killing dogs.
Killing dogs?
Yeah. 6 o'clock in the morning when a dead dog on the street. Viet Cong got him. Chow.
Because they'd kill him and eat him.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. So then just before I left, probably in August of 68, I picked up Sergeant E5. So E5 under 4. But I finally got my hash mark sewed on when I had my 4 years in. On the way back, I went to Bombay, Athens, Tel Aviv, Frankfurt, London, Washington, D.C., headquarters Marine Corps. And I sat in the Sergeant Major's office typing up certificates of completion for the students and smoking the cigarettes. And I wore a path between career advisory and his office. I had it all planned. I was going to extend for 2 years. I was going to go to Saigon Embassy, ship over for 6 years while I'm there, get $10,000 tax-free because I had a variable reenlistment bonus of 4, curriculum was. Stay in Saigon for a year, go to a lollipop post someplace, maybe Bangkok, maybe Manila, you never know. But Saigon was a hardship post, so you spend a year of hardship, then you go someplace else. So I was going to ship over. Only reason I didn't was because my folks were close. A year after I got out, my folks divorced.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, because he worked at the mental institution in Lapeer, wanted me to work there. So he took me on a tour of the place. And while I was on a tour, we went to this one coffee room where everybody's having a coffee break. And there's this one girl in there who had big round eyes, blonde hair, and a white uniform. And she looked at me and I looked at her. 6 months later, we got married. Been married 54 years. But I worked at the state home for a short time, and then somebody said, "Hey, you can make more money at Buick." So I went to Buick Factory 4 Final Assembly, worked there for a couple months, not long enough to do anything. And then while I was on the line, one of the kids on the line said, "Hey, let's go to Consumers, put our application in." So we went down to Consumers on a Friday. Monday, we read meters. And
Consumers in Jackson. Flint? Okay.
Yep.
Kind of by Mount Holly?
Well, no, Consumers in Flint's on Court Street, east of Dort.
Okay.
It's on the southeast side of town.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yep. So went to work there. I worked in meter. Metering is a great hiring in job, although knowing that it wasn't going to stay. I mean, they'd contract that job out. But anyway, there was an opening come up in the electric side, so I filled the application in, stapled a resume that I had made in Bangkok to the application, and I got picked to go work in electric distribution. I was a groundman truck driver. I was groundman for about 4 hours, and I got promoted to truck driver.
You said 4 hours?
Yeah.
It's pretty quick.
Yeah. So I was a groundman for maybe a year, right around there. Worked for a good crew. Then I went to B school. A B lineman is sort of like a step 1, step 2 apprentice. I could work on up to 750 volts. Okay. Went to school, and I went on a service truck, cutting people's lights off for non-payment, running new services, replacing open wire with triplex, all that kind of stuff. And it was a good job, a lot of climbing. And then I got in 79, I went down to Hillsdale Assessment Center and went through the assessment center there. One of my big things was giving John Waters, who was from the South and was my manager, give him a JPR and telling me he was racist. But we pulled through it. And it's all game playing, role playing. So October 8th, I got my discharge and headed back to Michigan. I applied for the job at State Home.
October 8th, what year?
68.
68?
Yep. Received my discharge, honorable discharge, and drove home and applied for the state. The state said 2 weeks to 2 months, so I went to work at Apache Trailer Company, Vesley's in Lapeer. And they hired me on the spot, put me in shipping and receiving. 2 weeks later, I got called by the state, hey, but you got your job open if you want it. So I went there. I was coming from the lab, and that pretty little blonde with the big eyes and the white uniform made a fuss over my cotton ball because I just had a blood test. And I said, this is good. So I hired in the state. And again, I wasn't going to make a living there, so I went to Buick, worked on the assembly line, ended up at Flint Consumers. Made a reading for about a year, B lineman for a little about a year, and then I made A lineman. And went on a 6-man line crew building a 1.5 miles of 46 kV on Conwood Road. It's good 85-foot poles. Good experience. Then I went to assessment center in 79, Hillsdale, came back, and everybody that was going to the assessment center was getting picked for supervision. I said, geez, I thought I did a good job down there. And then I got called into Dick Hyatt's office, superintendent. He says, can you be in Jackson to meet with Harold Fisher on Monday morning? I said, yeah, I can do that. So I got a pool car, drove down to Jackson, met up with Harold Fisher. He jumped in the car. We jumped in his car. We drove out to Marshall, and a guy by the name of Claire Appel, who used to be in Flint. He had the school, and it was a small area. He had 7 poles, slack span, no guys, no nothing. And we walked around Marshall a little bit, talked to Claire, and then we jumped back in the car, went to Schuler's for lunch, and on the way back, I says, I take it this is my interview? He says, yeah, we want you to come to Marshall and work with Claire. Well, you'll be a skill instructor, you'll be making so much money. I said, I'll give you a tentative yes, but I'll give you a definite after I talk to my wife. So I talked to my wife. She knew I had my mind made up, and I walked in the door.
Mm-hmm.
So we set up everything and moved down to Concord. And I was living in a hotel for a couple months. And then the family moved down there, and life was good. Then lived on Swains Lake, and I was traveling between Concord and Marshall daily, once in a while to go to
30-minute drive or so. Like,
what's that?
This is about a 30-minute drive.
Yeah. Yep. There were three different ways I can go. I can take 94, take Superior Street out of Albion, or take the back roads, depending on how I felt. But new territory. But I love Marshall. I got to do the same thing basically that I'm doing now. My Claire retired, took the golden handshake somewhere. I can't remember when it was. But there, and then I was there by myself. I was teaching most of the time anyway.
So she was at Consumers Energy too.
What's that?
She was at
Claire.
Claire was
his guy. Claire is a guy.
Okay.
Yeah, and he worked at Consumers.
Okay.
Worked in Flint for a while, and then he got this job down in Marshall.
Okay.
And I took his place when he retired.
Okay.
And it was good. I got some travel. I got to go to Toronto. I've been to Florida. I went down to Florida to buy a training program down there, or at least look at it. Bought it later. And traveled around the state. Towards the end of my career at Marshall, I did a lot of live line maintenance, working on 4600, 38,000, 345, hot sticking with fiberglass sticks. Loved it because you're teaching people who want to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not there because they have to be there. They're because they want to be there. So it was a great job. We traveled, did some work up in Gaylord and Traverse City, Rose City, Manistee. Did a lot of travel. We get the helicopter report, find out the 1 and 2 broken insulators, and we go replace them under a training function.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. In 2004, September, I was just finished inspecting a no-fly line up in Charlevoix, Petoskey. Sitting on the shore doing some paperwork, and my financial planner called me. He says, "If you're going to thinking about retirement," I said, "No, not really." He said, "But you're going to do it now, because the timing is good." So I called the benefits people down Jackson. I called them 3 times. The 4th time, I let the phone ring because I really didn't want to leave because I was having too much fun working by myself, traveling. And I called them up and said, "Hey, effective September 1, I'm retiring." He says, "Well, when you get back in town, come on in and sign papers." So I did. So if I would have
September 1 of what year now?
2004.
2004.
Yeah. So had I walked out the door after my retirement party, I'd have been a babbling idiot because I love doing what I'm doing. I loved the people I was working with. Had a great supervisor, Gary Valentine. And so they kept me on board. We hired a replacement. They kept me on board till December 31st as a contractor. Best thing ever happened because I got very irritated because I'd be sitting in my office. People walk by my office to talk to my replacement who didn't know squat. And so they couldn't end up coming back. I was just a figurehead. I was just a body. I never attended any more safety meetings, couldn't drive the truck that I've been driving since 1990.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you were a contractor. You were useless. You were just there to train your replacement. So when I walked out the door December 31st, 2004, I was very happy to leave.
I bet.
Yep. I had a job with waiting for me with JV Tree Expert Company. I was writing programs and putting them on around the state for tree trimmers. And then they wanted me to go to South Carolina, and I ain't going to do that. So I quit. And we had moved up to Elk Rapids.
Outside Traverse City.
Yeah, north of Traverse City. We had a house built up there, and I was working for Avis at the airport, moving cars around. And then I went to work at Grand Traverse Resort and mowing tee boxes and greens. And then after the season was over, I got a job shuttle driving, picking up people at the airport, taking them out to the resort, picking them up at the resort, taking them downtown or out to the casino.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a good job. But I got fired because somebody in the tribe wanted my job. So I left there, and I got a call after I got home and says, "Hey, I understand you got fired." I said, "Yep." He says, they said I wrote a letter and didn't sign it. Wrote a letter of supervision. I said, "I don't get on no computers. That's not my job." He says, "Well, let you know, I wrote the letter, and I went in and told supervision, you fired the wrong guy." They said, "So?" He said, "Well, if that's your attitude towards your employees, I'm out of here." So they lost 2 of us that day. So I went to Agamine golf course up the road and got a job mowing fairways. I worked there for 2 seasons, and I quit. I quit Avis because a couple of girls in the car wash decided to take a car on a joyride. They got caught. So they had me moving cars, washing cars, filling them up with gas, taking them down to oil change, and it got to be too much like work. Mm-hmm. So I quit. And
You're retired at this
I
point.
retired, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then one day we had, my wife wanted to get back by the grandkids. I had grandkids in Grand Ledge, Hull, and Brighton. So we're kind of in between. And where was I going with this? Oh, anyway, while we were looking for a house down here, we lived in Burton at her sister's house.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the carpet cleaned. The guy comes in to clean the carpet. He says, I want you to work with me. I don't have anybody my own age to talk to on the job. I want you to work with me. So he paid me $75 at least to go help clean carpets and talk with him.
Mm-hmm.
I worked with him until we moved down here, and that was too much travel. So I was driving around Flint one time, not really doing anything. Got a call from a guy by Jim Dillon. He was a lineman in Flint. He retired before I did. He said, what are you doing? I says, nothing. He says, how'd you like a job? I says, doing what? He says, training linemen. I says, where? He says, LCC. That sounds like fun. I could do that. You know anybody else who wants a job? Yes, call Ron Bush, Owasso. Mm-hmm. So he called Ron, and him and I were hired at the same time. Went to LCC, and they had a class going on, and we took over the class and had a ball. Ron was fun to work with, but I figured I'd hire on as a temporary job. I've been there 10 years, like July.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I told my supervisor that this was my last class. 10 years is a long time. It's time for me to start
Being retired.
Yeah. I won't, but it's time to get away from that because I don't mind. I love the job. I didn't like putting up with some of the college stuff. Like I ordered parts material last spring. I still haven't got it. And you need that stuff to put on the program.
Mm-hmm.
I'll quit there. I got my letter of resignation all typed up. All I got to do is change the date. And I'll probably be gone mid-November. But I'll probably get another job someplace, shuttling cars at dealerships. Mm-hmm. I like doing that. It's on my bucket list. I'm not one to sit around and watch soap operas and drink Twinkies, you know. I haven't had an opportunity to sit out on my porch in a long time. So.
It's a nice porch.
Yeah. Yeah. We were out there day before yesterday. I think it was. Just enjoying the evening. But, you know, that's what my life, and I have no regrets. Probably the only regret I had is not going home by way of the Pacific. But I've been to Hawaii, so, you know.
So you do work with the Marine Corps Legion.
Yeah,
Tell me about some of the things that you do there.
Yeah. When we lived in Elk Rapids, I joined the Marine Corps League in Yeager Brothers Detachment up in Traverse City. They were meeting at the AML off Airport Road. Since then, they built a new building out in Interlaken. They're about 4 miles west of Interlaken on 37, I think it is. And I went in, paid my dues, raised my hand, and they gave me an adjutant job, secretary. Okay, so I'm taking notes during the meeting for a while. So then I got elected as commandant of the detachment. I was that commandant for 2 years. And then we moved down here, and I joined...
Commandant means...
He's a president of the detachment.
Okay.
And he's responsible for everything. And so we moved down here. Once we got in this house, I transferred my membership down to Howell. And, I went through the chairs. I was adjutant for a while. I was junior vice for a while. Junior vice in charge of recruiting. Senior vice was in charge of fundraising. I was commandant for 2 years. And then I stepped down. You could only be 2 years anyway, according to bylaws. And so I sit over there rather than behind the table. And I got on the honor guard. Loved the honor guard. It was hard for a while, but until you learn, don't look at the crowd, look at your rifle stock.
Yeah.
You know, we up at Great Lakes, we do a funeral every half hour in the summertime, basically. I still do that when I can, but I'm working in Lansing, so if I'm there, I can't. I was elected commandant here in Hull for 2 years, and then I backed down. My tour was up. last June, back up, last November, I was installed as commandant again. And in June, at the department convention, I was elected commandant Department of Michigan. So I am in charge of the state of Michigan. We have 53 detachments.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I just came back from Marquette last weekend. We were up visiting. They had a zone meeting. All 4 detachments were there, so I didn't have to travel around and make connections. Everybody was right here. So we talked and told them what I expected and all that, and met with a few people. My adjutant is from up there, so I met with her. It's a 2-year tour. I'll get reelected in June, or maybe not. A lot of travel. We were at Oklahoma City last June for the national convention. I'm going to Arlington, Virginia this February. I'm going to Rancho Mirage next June for the convention. We have a Central Zone conference over in Kalamazoo. Last year was in Plainfield, Illinois. So there's a lot of travel. It's a little expensive. I can handle that.
Yeah, I like to travel, especially with military.
Yeah.
So it's a great story. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, Kat and I have, or with Kathy, she was born and raised up in the Thumb area, Kindy area, Pennybog actually. We got married. We have 3 kids. My oldest son is probably 53. He owns his own business. He's a co-owner of an engineering firm in Grand Ledge, RS Engineering. They design roads. And he just opened up a new place in West Bloomfield Hills, I think it is. He's got, at last count, but I know it's grown, he's had 25 Michigan State grads working for him.
Oh, nice.
Yep. His son is working for him. His son pulled a tour in the Army, and then he's working as an inspector for him. His youngest son, Josh, is going to Michigan State right now with an engineering degree. The daughter, Rachel, is, God, I don't know how old she is, 25. No, more than that. She got to be 28. She works for a digital company over in Troy. So it has a Jeep design, that has something to do with the Jeep commercials and stuff. Dwayne, my son, lives in Howell. His oldest son is a Marine. He just picked up Lance Corporal. He's at Marine Barracks, 8th and I in Washington, D.C.
Oh, it's a hard tour to get, right?
Yeah. When he was going to boot camp, they pulled him out of the gas chamber line and sent him in to do an intelligence test. Evidently passed it. He filled out his background investigation. He's got that. Sooner or later, he may be at the White House or Camp David. But right now, he's guarding the commandant's house. Security. Dwayne graduated from Ferris he's a safety engineer for Dematic Corporation in Grand Rapids. Jenny she put a year in at Central, and then she graduated with a master's degree from Eastern Michigan. She's a speech and language pathologist. She has one child. He's 6th grade. So that's my kids. Pretty proud of them. They did something with their life.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
And as far as is your story, is there anyone other than like your family? Is there anyone that was very like instrumental in your success and always there?
Well, I think my buddy in high school, he's the one that got me in the Marine Corps, or pointed me that direction. I've had some good supervision at Consumers. Media reading, not so, but in line side, I had good supervision.
What was your buddy's name again?
Bob Botkins, who now used to live in Fairgrove. Now he lives up in Noggin.
Okay.
I was hoping to run across him. I went up to Marquette this past weekend, but he's going blind, so he doesn't travel. My wife is very instrumental in pushing me. She If I make a decision, she just backs it up. A good decision. If it's a bad decision, she lets me know about it. So far, I haven't made it. But, you know, I've been pretty lucky. I've been in the right place, right time. I've been to the company. Consumers sent me down to when Bill, I can't remember his name, was in charge. They bought some foreign countries like in Australia and one down in Brazil, and they flew me down to Rio to train some people in airborne infrared. So I was down in Rio de Janeiro for 7 days in a little town called Cataguas. And we did some airborne infrared, trained everybody. And unfortunately, we had a language problem, but I had an interpreter who was about 62 years old. And he pretty much interpreted everything I said because the people didn't speak English very well, and I didn't speak Portuguese. So, but the one pilot could speak broken English. There were two pilots. One of them could speak broken English because he came up to Jackson to look over our FLIR equipment because he knew that we were going to sell him one of the units. And we'd meet him out the airport, and we'd show him how it's hooked up and all that good stuff and how to operate it. Then I went down and showed the linemen or the technicians how to operate the camera, how to process it. Mm-hmm. So that was fun. Been to Rio. I put on a talk, airborne infrared, out in Las Vegas. I put one on in Cleveland, and been to ESMO conferences in Toronto, Vegas, Albuquerque. So I got some traveling. It was good for me.
So you have an amazing story. Is there anything, if anyone's listening to this, what would you want them to take away from your story?
Well, if you're going to go in the military, don't just sit there and do what's required of it. Jump out and take some correspondence course, do some learning, get some education. You know, I think taking the University of Maryland and USAFI and MCI courses helped me get to Embassy Marine School, Marine Security Guard School. I really think that did. It wasn't because I was filling the aircraft nice with oxygen. It wasn't because I was working on the ejection seats without any mistakes. It was because I put forth a little extra effort and get educated. And I think that helped me. And I think, like my grandson who's out in D.C. right now, I wouldn't want to be stationed in D.C. because they're right in the ghetto. Their liberty is outside the city or district of D.C. You wouldn't want to be walking down the street from, where they do the parade on Friday evening. You wouldn't want to be walking down the street at 10 o'clock at night there by yourself. It would not be good. So he's going to spend 3 years in Washington, D.C., my understanding, and then he's going to spend 2 years with the Fleet Marine Force. Camp Pendleton, Lejeune, maybe overseas, I don't know. But he'll spend 2 years with the Fleet Marine Force, and that'll be good for him after spending 3 years in D.C. with working in the ghetto. But, 8th and I is a historic place to be, and it's a great place to be, but there's no liberty. Nothing to do once you get out, unless you jump in. He doesn't have a car, can't afford one, it's Lance Corporal.
Yep.
But, he's got some friends that do have cars, and they spent a couple of weeks in Nashville one time.
You have to network. I remember those days. Yep.
I didn't have a car I didn't have a car until I came back from Bangkok. And then I bought a Buick convertible, drove it back to Henderson Hall, spent something like 20 days, never drove the car around Washington, D.C. at all, parked it and left it there. And then when I got my discharge, I put the top down and drove back to Michigan.
Yep. So what if you're in, do what you can to improve yourself, get some education.
Yeah, just don't put in your time. Do something.
Well, thanks again for having me today. I really enjoyed your story.
It's all factual. Every bit. I enjoyed telling it, and I enjoyed preparing for it. I used to have a stack of promotional warrants downstairs, and I was going to look for them for the exact date of promotion, but it's wrapped up. I got I got a teakwood elephant downstairs that I brought home from Bangkok, and I got bronzeware that I brought home. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I got it.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Yep, my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Veterans Archives, the podcast that brings you the story of the men and women who have created and lived our military history. If you or someone you know served in the military and would like to share your story with Veterans Archives, please go to www.veteransarchives.org, select the Apply Now button, and fill out our application, and someone will get right back with you. Veterans Archives is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we rely on the donations of our listeners. If you are enjoying these stories and you support our efforts, please go to www.veteransarchives.org and select the Donate button. Any donation is certainly appreciated. Look for Veterans Archives on your favorite social media. We are on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Just look for Veterans Archives. Like, follow, and share our page. We'd certainly appreciate it. If you or someone you know is a veteran and you are struggling with mental health issues, please dial 988 and select option 1 for the Veterans Crisis Hotline. Please be sure to tune in next time for the next episode of Veterans Archives.